Hello and welcome to another episode where I am building my very first N-gauge model railway layout. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at putting the cork onto the baseboard. But first that means taking up this track, storing it so that we can get that cork onto the board. So let's get to it. So as I said, we need to take this layout apart, mainly so that we can store it. If we remember from a previous video, we only laid this down so that we could see how the layout was going to look once it was all completed. So we'll do this and then we'll look at putting the cork sheets down. Okay, so there we go. All the track is up, stacked into relevant piles, and we can go ahead and cut the cork. And so that's the next step. So here we've got a piece of the cork laid out onto the board. It's currently being held in place by a picture frame, but we need to cut along the edge so that it's the right width, and then we'll put down some PVA glue, which we picked up from a local shop, and get it stuck down. So using a Stanley knife, we're just going to cut along this edge and cut this cork to size. What we do have in the baseboard are some screw holes, which allows us to take the top piece of the board off of the bottom table. These screws do need to be accessible, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get to the wiring underneath. So we're going to go ahead and just cut out a small notch in the cork just to make sure those are easily accessible. Right, so getting the PVA glue, we're just going to spread it all over here. Like this, making sure that everywhere's got a good covering. We'll get an old card, and then we can spread the glue out, making sure that it's absolutely everywhere. Get the cork and lay that on here like this. Work your way backwards. Get a couple of things that are quite heavy, pop them on like that. Just to hold it down. So we're just repeating exactly the same process with the other side. I'm just going to go ahead and put the cork down, and then we'll see what that looks like. So now we've got all of the cork down. I've got some old roof tiles holding it in place for it to dry. Did have some issues with like it being a bit bubbly and bouncy, so we'll have to see what that looks like when it's dried. But we'll check back in a couple of hours. So now it's the next day. Let's take these tiles off of the cork and see if it glued down as I was hoping. So the cork has secured nicely onto there. There's just a couple of bumps here where it hasn't glued, but once we put something on there, that'll be stuck down. The edges along here are a bit rough, but that'll be okay. That's where the buildings are going to go. That just needs a bit of a tidy up. That'll be fine. The black on here that you can see is just off the tiles. So we'll get the hoover, give that a bit of a clean up, and then yeah, we should be good to put the track back on. Now that the cork is dry, we need to locate the screws. Remember a few videos back we put these screws into the board to hold it onto the base table. I did make some marks in the cork, but unfortunately I can't see where they are, so I've got this tiny little magnet that I've been running across the cork like this, hoping to find where those screws are. So I've managed to locate one of the screws. Here it is. So we're going to take our Stanley knife and we're going to cut out a small square around that screw. This should be fine. We'll be able to cover this up with something later on, and then we can just remove that piece of cork from the bottom board and hopefully reveal, there we go, the screw. The screw is just in there, so that will allow us to remove the board off the base table to do the wiring. I've located the other two screws as well. There's one there and there's one there. That one's a little bit of a mess. It might need to have a little bit of a tidy up, but we need to get the screwdriver and see if these screws come out tidy before we move on to the next step. So we're going to go ahead and use a manual screwdriver and remove this screw. So as you can see there, that's coming out really easily. We're not using a powered screwdriver at this point because I didn't want to rip around the cork any more than was necessary. So if we put that back in, we can have a look and see how that sits on top of the cork. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll have to see where the track lies, but now that I know that I can get these screws out, I'm a bit happier. So we'll give this a bit more of a tidy up because I've got some bits that need to be hoovered off again, and then we will put the track back on and see where we're at there, because we need to find out where these are going to get drilled. So we need to make some holes to put the cable through the cork. That's going to be the next job, because I'm not sure if it's going to end up ripping this cork. Okay, so the track is now roughly laid, and you can see here that we have one of the pre-soldered ST1s. This one isn't connected up just because I don't want to damage this wire by forcing it and pinching it before I've drilled the hole. So what we need to do now is we need to go around with the plan and mark on the board where we're going to have droppers. So we would drill a small little hole there and a small little hole there and feed the wires through. We've got a couple more of those around the track which we need to do, and then we will be able to feed those droppers through. We're also going to have to change some of the fish plates on some of these bits of track, because not all of the bits of track come with pre-soldered points, pre-soldered parts. So if I just take this piece off, you can see here that there's some already attached fish plates. These need to come off and they need to be replaced with the PL82s that we had to look at last time. These, so you can see there that they've got some fish plates already on. Those get replaced with those fish plates that I just showed you, to add the power to those pieces of track. So on the plan we've got a requirement for power on both these rails, so we're going to take them out and replace them with some of these PL82s, and we need to make sure that the red and blacks are on the right side. So yeah, let's have a go at doing one of those. So that was slightly fiddlier than I expected, but you can see both of these rails now have PL82s attached. We need to drill a small hole here and here and here and here. So I'm going to go around and do that for the rest of the plan and check back in a bit. So what I've been doing is getting a piece of track and some pliers, putting them on the fish plates and then just pulling them off. Like this. And then you get the PL82 and just slide that onto the track like that, pushing it all the way up until it can't go any further. And then the same with the red one, making sure that you've got the cable pointing in the direction that you want it to go. Put that onto there, and that's it, done. Now that can go back into the position that it was in before. Okay, so now we've got all the wires in place, we need to go ahead and mark on here where we're going to put the drill holes. So there's going to be one there and one there somewhere, and there's going to be a couple more further round. So we'll take this piece of track out so that we don't damage it, if I can, like that. Get the drill and then just make a small hole here. Hope for the best. So we're making some good progress with the holes. The only problem that we have is we've got a beam that runs across the middle here, which I put in when I first got the board, mainly to get it straight. But I think this should be okay. So we'll go ahead and drill the hole and see what happens. Then you feed these through the hole that you created. Yeah, and as I thought, that one's absolutely fine. It goes all the way through. I have found that I've had to lift it a little bit to be able to get that kink out of there. But once that's done, it lays nice and flat onto the board like that. And we just give that a quick hoover to hoover up all the debris and move on to the next one. So I've got all the holes drilled. If you're wondering what these two lines that are running along the board are, they're just telling me where the beam underneath is so that I can't drill in that area. But yeah, it's all drilled out, the wires are pushed through. Next we need to get the track tacked down so that I can lift the board off of the base table and begin the wiring. So thanks so much for watching. I hope to catch you in the next one. If you've liked this video, please give it a like and maybe subscribe. See you in the next one. Cheers.